Well, a major showdown is brewing in Washington as the White House threatens to veto a spending bill that would keep the government running, but there would be a condition attached, defunding Obamacare. Let's bring in Juan Williams, a Fox News political analyst. Is this an unwise strategy by the GOP? And in the last hour, we put some data on the screen that showed independents in the key battleground states coming up in the midterm elections. I mean, they don't like Obamacare, but they do not want, by a large margin, the government to get shut down, and they seem to the president's argument that the GOP would be to blame. Is this an ill-conceived strategy by Republicans?
Well, just cited, Greg, I think it's like 50% basically independents oppose this idea. And you need independence if you want to win elections. So if you want to win in 2014 or even looking towards the next presidential race in 2016, you can't alienate the voters. And this is a move that's not only going to alienate independents, but there are large numbers, obviously, of Democrats and even Republicans who don't like it. The Wall Street Journal editorial page has said this is a kamikaze venture, you know, a suicidal mission. Karl Rove has said these folks are on the wrong track, and Karl is definitely a Republican.
Sure.
And you have people who, on the Democratic side, Harry Reid, the majority leader in the Senate, who says basically a bunch of anarchists have taken control and have taken Speaker Boehner under their wings and made it so that Speaker Boehner can't even lead his troops.
And yet, two very smart guys, Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, both Republican senators, they're on Hannity last night. Here's Lee's argument. Take a listen.
Okay.
Well, what I'm saying is that we ought to fund every other priority in government. Ted and I and others are willing to fund even programs that we don't like as a compromise gesture in order to avoid having to fund Obamacare and as a condition for making it possible to defund Obamacare and thereby achieve a delay. That's what we want.
So we'll fund everything, even stuff we don't like, but just defund Obamacare. I mean, if Republicans can use the next couple of weeks to elevate that argument, Juan, does that change the political dynamic?
Not at all, because, again, the harsh reality is they don't have the votes in the Senate. They would need 5 votes in the Senate, Greg. They don't have 1 vote in the Senate. They would need the President of the United States to say, oh, my gosh, I'm changing my mind, and I'm going to go along and I'm going to grant this delay. There's just nothing like that in the cards. So what you have is people who are stuck on an ideological point, but threatening the economic recovery, threatening government shutdown, government services. If we look back historically as a matter of politics, this just doesn't work for the Republicans as a successful strategy.
Didn't work in 95. The betting money is certainly not going to work now, because back then they did have some appropriations bills that funded the government. Now there are none, so it could be catastrophic. But look, what's interesting is you look at some of this polling data, Juan, and Americans do favor delaying the individual mandate, but not defunding, which Republicans claim is a method by which you delay. I sometimes wonder if it's a matter of semantics, but you got to go with public opinion.
Well, no, you don't. I mean, clearly there are people on the Republican side, and I would say this is especially true of a lot of the funders, people who are behind the Tea Party movement, people who are, do mail fundraising by mail operations and the like. They are clearly opposed not only to delay. They're not only in support of delaying, Greg, they want to defund Obamacare altogether. They see it as a powerful driver for the far right now. There's no question there's a base that is just crazy in opposition to Obamacare.
The Senate will amend it and then kick it back to the House, and then you're a standoff, and if the time runs out, you're at the government shutdown, and, it's a question of who gets the blame. All right, Juan Williams, good to see you, Juan. Thanks.
Thank you, Greg.